Welcome to Relationship Radio. Hi, I'm Dr. Joe Beam. Sometimes people ask us questions about what is the most powerful attractor of another person. Is it my physical, my intellectual, my emotional, my spiritual? I did actually a survey on that several years ago. Actually, it was a little bit of a poll, if you will. And as I did that poll, I asked them, for a long-term relationship, which one of these is the most important to you? I also did another poll saying, before you married, which one of these was the most important to you, which was the strongest as to what was happening. And in both polls, emotional beat the others by far. Now, we know if somebody's just looking for a short-term relationship, they tend to concentrate on the physical. Is she pretty? Is she well-built? Is she clean? Does she have great perfume on? Look at her hair, et cetera, et cetera. And if she's looking at him, is he as tall as I want him to be? Does he have muscles, et cetera? And if they're just looking for the short term, then they may enjoy each other's company for the evening because they've been in the presence of somebody physically attractive. Or if their morality allows, they may wind up going home with each other. And they enjoy that because they had sex with a person that was very physically attractive. So physical attraction is an important thing. It never goes away. But understand, people looking for long-term relationships aren't looking for that. Oh, they don't want you to be as ugly as a fence post. That's a phrase we used when I was growing up. They don't want you to be like that at all. They want you to take care of your body, to clean your teeth, to comb your hair, all those kinds of things. But the physical becomes less important. Intellectual, where you can talk to each other, that's important too if you want to develop a relationship. But if that's all you do, you'll just become friends, having very interesting conversations with each other. And spiritually, if you have similar beliefs and values, it's a whole lot easier to get along then than if they're far apart. As I'm recording this, it's the summer before the election for president in 2024, and I'm watching the country turn against each other. Not just because of the fact that they believe different things, but because of the fact that they won't accept people who have different beliefs and values than theirs. Now, understand that when we say accept, we don't mean endorse. We don't mean encourage. But if I meet a person of a different faith, I am a Christian. I have met many Muslims, and I give respect to them. I treat them with respect, even though our beliefs and value systems in some ways are extremely different, and some ways are very much alike. If I meet a Jewish person, the same thing. I don't have to endorse their beliefs and values, but I need to give them respect that they have beliefs and values and accept that that is what they believe. Now, again, I won't endorse it if I don't agree with it. I won't encourage it if I don't agree with it. And so spiritual attraction is actually pretty important because of the fact that it keeps us being civil with each other. Whereas right now, in this great country of ours, as I'm recording this, a lot of people aren't civil to each other anymore and actually turn violent. But notice I left out one thing, and that was the E, the emotional. Now, that's what we saw on both polls. The thing most important to me in the long term is this emotional connection. The thing that I had with this person that led me to make the decision to marry them was the emotional connection. You say, why? Because the emotional connection, now you know the basis of it, push, pull. I'm not going to do things that evoke negative emotions within you if I can help it. I'm going to do as many things as I can to evoke positive emotions within you if I possibly can. Now, this gives us the ability to reveal ourselves thoroughly. You say, what do you mean? All of us, each of us, wants to be loved as he or she is. I don't want to have to meet your criteria for you to care about me or for you to accept me. Can you accept me just as I am? And I know that just as I am is flawed. I'm screwed up. But I want you to accept me. You don't have to endorse me. You don't have to encourage me, but can you accept that that's the way I think, that's the way I feel, that's the way I believe? And if you can do that, then I can be more and more vulnerable to you. You see, most of us are completely closed off to the rest of the world. We don't want people to know things about us. We don't, because of the fact that we fear that they will reject us. Whereas if a person demonstrates unbelievable acceptance, then we want to open up. We want to tell our secrets because we want somebody to know who we really are and still care about us. Because if somebody thinks I'm this awesome dude and they like me because of that, I'm going to have something called an imposter syndrome because I know I'm not an awesome dude. And I'll be thinking, yeah, I know that you like me, but you like me because you think I meet your criteria. Would you like me? Would you love me? Would you accept me if you knew that I don't live up to all your expectations? And when you meet a person that can do that, that can give you that emotional safety, and hopefully that would be your husband or your wife, then you want the relationship with him to stand for a long period of time. Now, you understand, it has to be reciprocal. You have to be doing the same for them. I remember years ago, I was being picked up at an airport in Birmingham, Alabama, and driven to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where I was going to be speaking to, I think, a couple of thousand teenagers, if I remember correctly. And the minister from that church in Tuscaloosa that picked me up, I had not known him beforehand. We had not met before then. His name is Buddy. And as Buddy was driving me to Tuscaloosa, I had the strongest sense of, here's a person that's unbelievably accepting, that I can tell him things about me and that he'll accept me anyway. I could just read that in his character, and you probably have run into people just like that as well. And so before we got to Tuscaloosa, I poured out my heart to him. I told him all kinds of things, and he accepted me anyway. And from that day, we became very, very close friends. Now, I was willing to reciprocate. It's just he was such a nice guy. He didn't have much to tell me. But it's a matter of that allows me to be vulnerable. Now, think about how that would work with a husband and a wife. If I cannot be vulnerable to you about what I think, what I feel, what I believe, if I feel I have to meet certain criteria for you to accept me, to have me around, to treat me well, it doesn't mean my desire to open up has disappeared. It's still there. It's just not one I can do with you because I know that you're going to judge me. You're going to treat me badly. That if I tell you the truth about those things, rather than being accepted, I'm going to be rejected. And personal rejection is the biggest push there is out there. Whereas acceptance, personal acceptance, is the biggest pull there is out there. And so you can love each other, accept each other, have this amazingly deep relationship without ever having to totally agree with each other. Because guess what? You never will. You never will. Do you realize that up to 60% of disagreements between a couple, a married couple, will never be resolved? And yet they can still have this extremely close relationship, even though they don't somehow solve their things where they disagree? No, even though they don't do that. Then how can that happen? Because they remain close to each other. They remain connected to each other. So you vote for one party, I vote for the other. I wish you'd vote for mine, you wish I'd vote for yours, but you know what? I still accept you, and you still accept me. You think one way about some big issue, I think a different way about that big issue. We can talk about it, not arguing, not fighting, not, duking it out with each other, but truly listening, asking questions, conceding sometimes. Yes, I see that point. You're right about that. And still, even if we don't come to any agreement, or maybe just a little agreement, can still accept what the other person thinks and feels and believes. And when that, as I said, is the biggest pull there possibly is. So how difficult is it to do that? Very. Because of the fact that we want to tell people when they're wrong. No, you got that wrong. You're not seeing it correctly. It's human nature. We want to straighten people out. Also because of the fact that things we hold dear, we want other people to agree with us. I'm a Christian. I love God. I look on various Facebook groups occasionally, just trying to read the country so that I can better determine how I can serve people and how we can serve people. And as I do that, sometimes I run across the most vitriolic, angry blasphemy toward God or toward Jesus. And every time I see it, even though I don't know the person that posted it, it hurts. It hurts because that's a very important belief to me. But suppose it was one of my daughters, and she came in and said, I no longer believe there is a God. As a matter of fact, I might as well pray to John Wayne because I'd get just as much answer if I would to God. And I look at her and I want to correct her. I want to say, let me give you all the evidence. Let me show you why it makes more sense to believe that there is a God. Let me explain all these things to you. But if I do that, rather than listening to her and hearing her hurt, she's going to feel rejected, major push away, may even leave my home. You say, so would you approve of? I've just said, I'm not going to necessarily approve of anything. I'm not going to endorse anything I don't agree with. Well, would you accept the fact that your daughter is an atheist? If she were? You see, that would be recognizing reality. It would be seeing what's actually happening. And I believe that recognizing reality makes all the sense in the world. So I acknowledge, yes, I see right now that you don't believe there's a God. Yes, I understand right now that you are an atheist. I accept the fact that you feel that way. I don't encourage it. I don't endorse it. But I can accept that. Now, if I can do that with my wife and my children, and they can do that with me, even though each of us will always be flawed and none of us will ever be 100% in agreement with the other, we can be vulnerable so that I can come home and tell my wife, hey, let me tell you what happened today. There was a woman in the mall and she smiled and flirted at me and I flirted back. I feel badly about it. You say, you could tell your wife that? If we had the kind of acceptance I'm telling you right now, and she'd say, is that all you did? Yes, ma'am, and I felt very bad about it and I came straight home and told you. Is she happy about the fact that I did that? No. But she would accept it's the truth because she would be acknowledging reality. But another reality she would acknowledge is, that hurt Joe to do that. And he had to come and tell me about it because his conscience told him to. Therefore, our relationship is sound. It's pure. Now, if you can have that with your spouse and have that with your children, it means that you have to be able to overcome your own prejudices. You can't be controlling or dominating about what they think, feel, or believe. You have to understand that there's a possibility that some of the things that you believe or think or feel are wrong, and that possibly your children or your spouse, maybe they're right, or the possibility that nobody's right. But you can still accept each other and be totally vulnerable to each other. And so, over the years, not so much now that I'm 149 years old and fat, but over the years, when I used to be younger and thinner and a lot more handsome, occasionally on the road, traveling, speaking, and I was back then all the time on the road speaking, occasionally women would actually try to seduce me. I remember one time a waitress tried to seduce me in the restaurant, kept coming back to my table, getting bawdier and bawdier with everything she said, trying to seduce me in every way she possibly could, telling me what time she was getting off, etc. Those kinds of things have happened many times in the past, not now. Women don't even see me now. You say, did you go tell Alice? Yes. You told everything she said? Mm-hmm. Everything she did? Mm-hmm. Why? Well, so Alice would know I'm a hunk. Plus, that's how open and transparent we can be with each other. That's how vulnerable we can be with each other. And that affects all kinds of things like love and trust and peace, all those things that are so important. Now, if you're thinking, okay, I'm going to convince my spouse and children that's what they need to do for me, you're starting at the wrong place. You start doing it for them. Demonstrate it. Not for a day, not for a week, not for a month. You demonstrate it for a while. And when they begin to notice, they'll start doing the same back toward you. And when they start doing the same back toward you, that's when you sit down and say, let's talk about that, about how that works and how wonderful it is to love another person that way. Vulnerability, acceptance is the key to everything when it comes to love and relationships. That's it for this session of Relationship Radio. Hope to see you on the next one.